You everybody for coming to the Aaron Torres podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen, go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for, and hit on a little bit of an interesting topic as it pertains to college football. Something that frankly just kind of has fallen through the cracks over the last couple days. And it's wild because we are now as I'm recording here, it's January 22nd, okay? We're only 2 weeks removed from the national championship game, Michigan beating Washington. But so much has happened since then. Alabama, Nick Saban retires. Kalen DeBoer replaces him. Jed Fish replaces Kalen DeBoer, on and on. Oh, by the way, Ohio State's crushing it in the portal. I bring all this up to very simply say that there's been so much news that we have lost stuff. Like, stuff has just fallen through the cracks over the last couple weeks. And I think there was a big piece of recruiting news that's worth mentioning and worth discussing today, which fits that bill. That was that late last week, we found out that Julian Lewis, Juju Lewis, he's from the state of Georgia, was the #1 quarterback in the class of 2026, announces that he will reclassify to the class of 2025. Now, that might not seem very important to you, but it is, because obviously if he is a high school member of the class of 2025, it means that he is now in his junior year. He has 1 year of high school football left, and he will be enrolling in college around this time next year. I bring it up because right after he announced that he was reclassifying, he also announced that he will be taking 3 visits to colleges of his interest. Again, he's from Georgia. This past weekend, he visited Auburn, which is right on the Georgia border, not far from the border, not far from where he lives. This coming weekend, he is visiting the Colorado Buffaloes and Coach Prime. And the following weekend, he will visit Georgia. And my guess is whatever decision he makes, and by the way, it is worth noting, he is technically committed to USC, which is another conversation for another day. I know this drives so many fans crazy. Don't say you're committed if you're not really committed. To be honest, I think he committed last summer, which was actually after his freshman year. I think he just wanted the graphic made, to be honest. Not here to criticize a kid, but it's just a fact. But anyway, I bring it up because committed to USC, but has already taken 1 other visit and will take 2 others. And my guess is that he will commit very soon so that he can lock in his spot and help recruit the rest of this 2025 class. And so the question becomes, and the reason you're here, is with a visit to Colorado this weekend. Do we think Colorado has a chance? And just how big would it be for Coach Prime and Colorado to lock this kid down? Now, I'll say a couple things. One, I don't think that this kid would be visiting if he wasn't serious about at least considering Colorado, right? I mean, think about it. #1, #2 quarterback now in the junior class. He was #1 in the previous class. He's 2 or 3, depending on what recruiting service you look at. But listen, this kid could visit anywhere. He could visit Bama. He could visit USC. He could visit whoever, Michigan, Ohio State. I don't think he'd be visiting Colorado if he was not interested. And what I would also say is, on top of that, there's some stuff that kind of sort of makes sense in terms of timing-wise as to why Colorado could make sense for him. Like, to be honest, listen, I know I just sort of criticized the kid, committed to USC, decided to reopen the recruitment while still being committed. But at the same time, I don't think if he was serious about going to Colorado, I don't think this is just to meet Coach Prime and hang out for a weekend. I think he's serious about the school, and there are reasons that it makes sense. One, we know Shedeur Sanders is leaving after this year to go to the NFL. He runs out of eligibility after this season, okay? So there will be a spot open and available at the starting quarterback spot. Now, there are 2 very capable backups this year. Destin Wade from Kentucky, the kid who transferred from Vanderbilt, I'm blanking on the kid's name. The poor kid, he's such a good player too. Walter Taylor. I apologize. I was going to say Wade Taylor, which is a basketball player, Walter Taylor. So there's 2 capable backups. But why I bring it up is the spot will be open in December of 2024, going into January of 2025, when he would enroll. To me, that feels important, okay? It feels important because these young quarterbacks, listen, they don't want to be handed anything, but I think they do want a pathway to playing time. Think about what just happened right now the last probably 6 or 8 weeks in the class of 2024. Dylan Raiola was committed to Georgia, knows he's going there, knows Carson Beck is coming back, knows he has zero chance to see the field except in extreme mop-up duty this past season. And so he reopens his recruitment. He ends up in Nebraska, where he's probably going to play significant snaps for the Cornhuskers. Don't think he'll necessarily start, take every snap under quarterback all season long, but I think he's going to play as a true freshman, and I think that's probably what Juju Lewis wants as well. Well, Shedeur Sanders is going to be gone. There will be 2 veterans as backups at that point, but it doesn't mean you can't bring in Juju Lewis and get him work. I think it's also worth noting, and listen, we never know with the portal, but listen, think about this past recruiting class in 2024. Who was the top recruit in that class? Jordan Seaton, 5-star offensive tackle. So in theory, you have the best offensive tackle in the class before you blocking for you. And they also signed 2 really elite skill position guys, Cam Michael, Draylon Miller, on top of all the guys that are already in the program, all the guys they will eventually bring in as well. And so I just bring it up because the roster could actually be in pretty good shape for a quarterback to step in and be productive in year 1 a year from now if Juju Lewis does decide that Colorado is a spot that he would be interested in. Now, it's worth noting, it's early in the recruitment, but it really isn't, as I just said. And I think those other 2 schools, 3 if you include USC, they obviously offer a lot, right? Auburn, I think it's easy to kind of dismiss them, but one, it's very close to home. He just visited. Hugh Freeze is a great recruiter, and it's kind of worth noting with Auburn is that they just signed 2 of the best wide receivers in the high school class of 2024 in Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson. And so that is what is appealing to Julian Lewis. Juju Lewis is his nickname, is the idea of going to Auburn, being able to compete for the job early, but also on top of that, you have some elite wide receivers to throw to. So Auburn could be a factor. Obviously, Georgia is going to be a factor. 2-time national champion, and I think it's worth noting too, recent success. I do think sometimes we overblow a team's history, whatever. But as a high school football player, you have an opportunity to go to Georgia. It's hard to say no to it, especially if you're from Georgia, and especially with their recent success. The question with Georgia, of course, would become, what's the pathway to playing time there? They just lost Dylan Raiola because of the fact that he knew he wasn't going to play early in his career. They have Gunnar Stockton right now. They just signed Ryan Puglisi in this most recent 2024 class, who a lot of people like. Shout out Connecticut. That's where he's from. That's where I'm from. But I just bring it up to say, I don't think you should dismiss Colorado. By the way, USC, no idea what the heck's going on there. USC, it's so wild. I know I'm going on all sorts of tangents here, but it's crazy to me how quickly a brand can get really hot and then really cold. This kid, Julian Lewis, committed to them last summer, okay? Now, again, he was just coming off his freshman year. But at the same time, they were the hottest brand in college football. Caleb Williams wins the Heisman. It's the 3rd Heisman Trophy under Lincoln Riley. He's going to be the number 1 pick. People were saying he would have been the number 1 pick in last year's draft, which I believe is true. And it's like, this kid has an offer from USC. Of course he's going to commit. A year later, Caleb Williams struggles, USC struggles, and the kid says, you know what? I'm going to look at Auburn. I'm going to look at Colorado. I'm going to look at Georgia. Bottom line is all 4 of these are good options, but 2 quick thoughts as we wrap. 1, I do expect like a real commitment soon, and maybe he stays with USC, but I think right now it's tough to imagine him sticking with USC, and it's not just because of the current situation in terms of the team struggling. Why I think it's tough to seriously think about USC is because we don't know what this program is right now. Changing up the defense, who's going to be playing with them, how good is the skill position talent, we just don't know. And so to me, I think all 3 of these schools are legitimate options. Otherwise, he would not be visiting. But let me also take this a step further as well, okay? I think there's a lot of people that would look at this and say, whether it's USC, multi-time Heisman Trophy winning coach, or a coach who's coached multi-Heisman Trophy winners, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Caleb Williams, that's a great option. Georgia, reigning national champion, is a great option. Maybe Auburn's a tier below that. But I think there's a lot of people that are going to watch this video and say, there's no way he's going to go to Colorado, right? Because anytime you say anything positive about Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, or anything, let's take it a step further. Anytime you don't say anything super negative about him, you get crushed. But I was thinking about this, and I don't know how much it would impact this particular recruit. But everybody talks about, why would these guys go to Colorado? They're not going to win. They went 4-8 last year. Okay, we all watched the games. We know they went 4-8. But as I've said a million times, they went 4-8. They lost a bunch of really close games. And I was thinking about this. What happens if Colorado is actually good this year? Because they still actually recruited pretty well coming off of a 4-8 year, all things considered. Now, the high school class, they really didn't bring in very many guys. I think that could hurt them in the long run. But they basically got the guys that they wanted out of the portal in a manner, the guys they wanted, they got. And so I'm just bringing it up to say, like, imagine if they actually won. They brought in 3 super high-profile high school recruits. Their average player rating was insane. Now, they only signed a handful of players, so it doesn't really count. But again, Draylon Miller, Cam Michael, Jordan Seaton, those guys were wanted by everyone in college football. So you have those 3. On top of that, you got everybody you wanted out of the portal. Imagine what recruiting will be like if they actually win next year. So we'll see what happens. I'm not going to put the cart before the horse. We still got 8 months before kickoff week 1. But I keep thinking, like, imagine if Colorado and Coach Prime win, what that recruiting could look like, and imagine what it would look like to a player like Julian Lewis, who is seriously considering the Buffaloes. If you enjoyed this video, do me a quick favor. Make sure to subscribe to the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New videos going up every single day. What else do you want me to say? Subscribe.